But I'm telling you, it's not President Trump's fault that the country isn't as pro-life as it should be. I put the blame at the foot of the church.
Dr. Turek, thank you for your time. My question concerns what I believe is the greatest sin in our nation today, the sin of abortion. As you may know, in all 50 states, women can legally kill their preborn children using abortion pills, often mailed directly to their homes or dorm rooms, protections that remain in place even after Roe was overturned, and in part due to compromises made by the mainstream pro-life movement. Even in states like Mississippi, there are rape exceptions for surgical abortion that allow for the killing of children conceived in rape, so long as it happens early enough while they are still in the womb. My question is, what are your thoughts on the abortion abolition movement, a movement that rejects all exceptions and incremental compromises and instead calls for the immediate and total abolition of abortion by granting equal protection under the law to all human beings born and preborn? How should we, as Christians, apply scriptures like Proverbs 24:11 and Isaiah 1:17 in this context, verses that call for us to rescue those being led to the slaughter and to seek justice for the fatherless?
I agree that the only justifiable excuse for abortion is the life of the mother. That if the mother is going to die like a fallopian tube pregnancy, the baby's not going to live anyway. And the purpose of that abortion is not to kill the baby. The purpose is to save the mother. Okay, but all these other abortions are not justified because that's a human being. As our friend Charlie Kirk says, and he's kind of behind Turning Point USA, he says if you have two sonograms, a sonogram from a child conceived in rape and another sonogram for a child conceived in a loving married couple, can you see the difference between those sonograms?
No, sir.
No, you cannot.
No,
why? Because they're both equally human beings, so why punish the child for the sin of the father?
Yeah.
Oh, well, it's going to create a big problem for the mother, and I get that. The question might be, I know it's awful. My question is, if somebody reminds you of a horrible event, are you justified in killing them?
Absolutely not.
No, okay? So I'm with you that we should seek a complete ban on abortion except for the exception I mentioned. But I am not someone who is going to not take an incremental approach, because if I can't save all babies, I'm going to try and save some. And right now, our country is not where we are in terms of the abolition movement. So how do we get them there? The same way God did in certain instances in the Old Testament. You know, God actually took an incremental approach with the Old Testament believers with regard to indentured servitude, which is mistranslated in the Old Testament called slavery. He took an incremental approach there. He also took an incremental approach on divorce, because Jesus in Matthew 19:8 says that Moses gave you a certificate of divorce because your hearts were hard, but it wasn't this way from the beginning. In other words, he allowed an incremental approach to bring people along. The ideal was Genesis 1. By the time you get into Exodus and Leviticus, the culture around them and even within Israel had become so corrupted that he had to take an incremental approach to get them where he wanted to get them. And I think that's the approach we need to take today. And by the way, I know that President Trump, although he's not as pro-life as I would like him to be, he's done actually more for the pro-life movement in terms of preventing abortions than anybody else has. And I think, as I just read the other day, he's about to defund Planned Parenthood to his, as far as he can do so, through executive order. But I'm telling you, it's not President Trump's fault that the country isn't as pro-life as it should be. I put the blame at the foot of the church. Oh, yeah. Because the church has to drive this issue, not politicians. If the church does drive the issue and gets people to demand of their politicians a pro-life view, then it will happen. But it's not going to happen before then. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
All right.
I'm not going to argue with it. Hey, thank you for taking my question.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.